we got to bring Jesus back into this thing. I don't know what happened to Jesus and why he got kicked out of his own genre, but we have to allow him back in. Okay.
It is very discouraging to me when I hear OGs of Christian hip hop or somebody that we look up to say things like the newer generation needs to put Jesus back in their music.
Greetings, y'all, and welcome to Seek Things Above TV. I'm your host, Lou Ciccone. So it looks like CHH keeps giving us stories that we've got to get into, man. So we're going to go into another story that just went down. But before we do that, man, if you like content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, sharing this video, ringing the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It is always, always, always appreciated. So without further ado, let's hop into the story for today. So we had Sho Baraka post a video where he describes the 10 things that he is recommending for CHH. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video right now. Then we can comment on some of the other things that have transpired since the video came out.
Christian hip hop is losing its mind. I believe that I have 10 things that will make CHH better. And I wish I would have considered a lot of these things when I was at the peak of my career. What am I talking about? I'm still at the peak, baby. First thing we got to do is we got to bring Jesus back into this thing. I don't know what happened to Jesus and why he got kicked out of his own genre, but we have to allow him back in, okay? Because I know some of you have evolved so much, and you're so smart. Just keep evolving, okay? Secondly, English lessons, we need them. It's very important for the skill, okay? We need to teach these rappers about metaphors, double entendres, motif, alliteration. It's seriously saddening, the scarcity of sophistication that I witness in these songs. Number 3, we got to stop caring about mainstream publications and mainstream attention. They don't care about you. Just be you. Don't be you, because some of y'all need to change. But be the sanctified you, okay? That's where we'll live. Number 4 is really important. I'm gonna need everybody to get off social media. If you're posting once a day, you're doing way too much, okay? See, the more we hear from you, the less I am interested in who you are, and the less I like you. Because sometimes anonymity is your best attribute. Within the authority that I have, I am going to add to the canon a 10th fruit of the Spirit, and that is to shut your mouth. Number 5, I'm instituting hip-hop chapters across the nation, like a union where you pay your dues and you have to connect with people in person. You need to be close enough to someone in the community that they can slap you. Number 6, before you get a record deal, you must go through the following process. We have to get you counseling. We got to catch that trauma before you start trying to process it in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Number 7, we must allow the genre to grow with its audience. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an old head, but I don't have 20-year-old problems anymore. And if you're over 35 and you're still rapping like you're a teenager, slow down, Peter Pan. Number 8, we need to know what church you're attending. And I need to see your attendance record, right? Don't be speaking on the behalf of people you don't like or connect with, okay? I just imagine a student being like, Sho Baraka's my professor. And I'm like, sir, you never come to class. You ain't my student. You're just quoting words. I love it. Number 9, if you've only read one book, do not do interviews or podcasts, because we just don't need your opinion right now. All right, and lastly, number 10, and very important, if you're a Black artist, for every Creation Fest or CCM tour you do, you're indebted to do at least 5 missionary Baptist churches, 2 Kojic churches, or you could just do 1 Church of God. This is the way. I have spoken.
All right, so let's go over this list, y'all. Let's check this out. So you have, number 1 is bring Jesus back. All right, I could not agree more with that one. I 100% agree that we need to bring Jesus back. Learn English, metaphors, motifs, double entendres, alliterations. So being creative, showing skill in how you write your rhymes, how you deliver your rhymes, even with the concepts, being creative in how these things are packaged for people's ears. All right. Stop worrying about the mainstream. Very, very important, man. I think that needed to be said, because there is this, if it's not a desire to be accepted by the mainstream or liked by the mainstream, then there is, I think, too much of, at times, a cloning of the mainstream where you're trying to make the CHH version of something else. Get off socials and shut your mouth. So that's an interesting one, because right now you would be told by most people that you need to be seen as much as possible, be on these platforms, be on social media. be visible, right? Be visible on social media, be heard, be visible, all that stuff. When artists are too visible, too heard, all over the place, you're kind of suffocating people with your content. So number 5 is have a close community in person, get slapped in person. That is just about having people who can hold you accountable, all right? Before the record deal, get counseling. This is good. This is more, I would say this goes to even the level of like, man, just you are not to go on platforms and start trying to have your therapy sessions in the studio through your music. I mean, I know writing music is therapeutic, and that's a good thing. That's a gift. But that is just like, I don't really want to listen to this, man. And truth be told, like, I got my own problems, man. I got my own problems. Why don't you give me music that, if you are kind of giving me like real stuff that you've been through, take me to a point where that's going to uplift me. But anyway, moving on. Let the genre grow with the audience. Very, very clutch, man. I agree with that 100%. I think that there's no way, man, that you can make the same music that you were making in your 40s that you were making in your 20s. It's just, you can't be making the same music, man. You're a different person. You're grown. The things that matter to you the most are different now. You have other responsibilities. Your life is bigger, wider. And the next one is number 8. Yo, this is big time. This is super important. This one right here, go to church. Go to church. I just don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about rappers, people who are supposed to be MCs, who are supposed to be Christian rappers, man, and they don't even go to church. They don't belong to any church. And I'm not talking about you're in a situation where you're moving from one church to another or you're looking for a church. I'm talking about people who ain't even tripping about going to church whatsoever. You're in disobedience, first of all, as it comes to the word of God, as it pertains to God's word and what the church is and what we're supposed to be as the body of Christ. So you're in violation. You can't do any of the one another's that we're commanded to do in isolation. You just can't do it. You're supposed to be in a gathered body of people who are physically gathering and who are essentially in a covenant together to help each other grow, hold each other accountable, and to help each other remain in the faith, stay steadfast until the Lord comes or until he takes us home. Don't tell me you don't go to church and expect me to be playing your music. That joint will get removed from a playlist. Doesn't matter how dope it is. Number 9, read books. It seems like dudes have a limited knowledge of what's going on. And that goes from theology, where it's like you can tell by what's being said in a lot of songs that there's a depth of theology lacking. And then there's, I think, even when you hear people talk about, to a certain extent, you hear people talk about social stuff, and you're like, okay, you don't really have all the information to be making some of the claims that you're making right here. Number 10. Now, this one is the one where I'm kind of like, okay, look, man, I get what Sho Baraka's trying to say here, man. If you're black, for every CCM tour you do, you owe shows at Baptist churches, Kojic churches, or just one Church of God a show. All right, so, yeah, I get what he's saying. I would say, man, at the end of the day, I feel that we just need to preach the gospel wherever it needs to be heard, and that's not just in the black community, that's every community. And yes, if you have the opportunity to speak in your, immediate community or places that you feel represent where you're from, go ahead and do that. But I wouldn't do that as a rule, or to say you need to go back to where you're from and make sure you visit those churches and perform in those churches. They may not even want you in those churches. You know what I'm saying? They may not even want you there. So with all that being said about these 10 points that Sho Baraka has presented as good things for CHH, what it needs right now, we had Nobigdyl, who is actually a really dope CHH artist, comment on his feelings about what Sho Baraka said. And so let's go ahead and bring that in, and then we can kind of chop it up on the other end about this, man.
What's good, y'all? So I usually don't speak on stuff like this because I don't want to alienate anybody or bring somebody into an offense that they might not already have. But it is very discouraging to me when I hear OGs of Christian hip hop or somebody that we look up to say things like the newer generation needs to put Jesus back in their music, or they need to get their metaphors and similes, basically their rapping ability up, because it just confirms to me that y'all not really listening to us like that. Like, when I hear that, I'm like, well, it can't be talking about Hovey or RG or One Day or Few or any of my peers at Reach. Couldn't be talking about Indie Tribe. Couldn't be talking about Miles Minnick or Zonti or Caleb Gordon or Scooty Wop or Breeze or Jay Monty. So I'm trying to figure out what is the real issue or angle here, because it feels very dismissive and counterproductive when you could just be building us up. So that's all.
Okay, so this was actually Sho Baraka's response to Nobigdyl's video, and he said, I appreciate this rejoinder and your heart to defend something and those you love. In short, I did not say the younger generation. This was a satirical response to the whole culture. As we know, satire falls short, but love and peace to you. Keep up the beautiful work, sir. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you could tell that it was satire. It was definitely satirical in its delivery, especially with the whole going to, the Kojic churches and all this kind of stuff. Jokes he made at the end about, Southern Baptists, what I'm saying, not having women preachers, all that stuff. So you could tell that it was delivered in a sense of humor. So there are some other OGs who responded. So Thistle actually said he saw it and he was like, huh? As I say every time, I'm super proud of y'all. Keep focused and keep killing it. It's y'all time, and God has equipped y'all to do it the way it needs to be done for this generation. So, different takes on this whole situation right here. There's one from The Truth right here. He said, I didn't hear what Sho Baraka said, so I can't speak to it, but I'm tuned in and I love where CHH is at right now. Particularly all the artists you listed. Y'all are killing it, man. Keep going. What I would say for me is it looked like in Nobigdyl's video, he focused on one major thing. And he took exception to Sho Baraka saying that we need to bring Jesus back into CHH. Honestly, man, I agree with him 100% because it is not simply the mentioning of Jesus' name that makes your music qualify as actually speaking about Jesus. We have people, mainstream artists, we have all kinds of artists who talk and say the name of Christ, but they're not talking about Jesus, or actually they don't know Jesus like that. So what I would say is lacking, and this I alluded to earlier, is the depth at which people speak from about certain things. And even the knowledge of Christ being one of those things, because we don't hear enough. Well, I don't hear enough. And granted, I'm not tuned in with all the people that Nobigdyl mentioned. I'm going to put my hand up and say, look, I'm not tuned in with all the people he mentioned. I know some of these artists, but if I had to just in general, like Sho Baraka said, in general, man, if I just kind of peruse the landscape of CHH, or if I'm in my car and I got a CHH playlist popping up from Spotify, if I compare what I'm hearing in general to what I heard 10 years ago in CHH, and even before that, honestly, man, you can't compare as far as the Christ-centeredness of it, like the overt Christ-centeredness of it. You can't compare it. It's not even, I don't think that you can really dispute that. And again, I'm not saying that you have to do lyrical theology, but how much you know about Jesus, what you want to actually bring out in your music, like how reading the word is rocking you is going to come out in your music. And for me, I just don't feel like I see or feel enough of that in modern CHH. I just don't experience it. And I'm glad that he gave us a list of people to check out. I will check out some of these artists, man. But as somebody who has followed this genre for many years, I'm with Sho Baraka on this, man. I'm with Sho on this, where it's like, yeah, there's a lack of a Christ-centeredness to the music. I just feel like there's a lack of Christ-centeredness. And with the blessings of the expansion of the genre, more ears, more exposure, more money even, with all those blessings, I think has come greater temptation for people to be simply Christian rappers in name. You can say Jesus in your music all day, but are you telling me truths about Jesus? Are you actually helping me learn about Christ? Like, how is your music actually making me learn about Jesus or learn about God more, learn about aspects of theology, like learn about even the attributes of God? Like, how is your music doing that? I mean, back in the days, we had different rappers, man. You had Shylin, you had, Reach Records doing their thing over here. You had other cats, you know what I'm saying? You had like Jason and other guys who was more like street, even Thistle's early stuff, right? So you had all these artists, but honestly, man, you could hear the Christ-centeredness of all of it. It was different. Not all of it was as didactic, but you could hear the Christ-centeredness in it. But today, you just don't hear the same thing. Like, I don't hear the same thing. But I am open to being corrected on this. I will definitely check out some of these other artists, man. But I have said enough, and I would like to hear from y'all about this whole conversation. So don't forget to hit me up in the comment sections and let me know what y'all thoughts are about this whole situation. With all that being said, man, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. All right? God bless y'all, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.